So, where that all happened, like what kind of sealed the deal for this school now being the spot was totally burned, was we were getting on the bus on the corner and a car that kind of rolled up and it was a local car. You knew it was like a dude from that neighborhood and he started asking everybody where they're from. And so we're all piping up and stuff, it's just what we do. And it was me, a dude named Twinny. He was a Samoan dude from Pinoy Real. That was the name of the hood in that Norwalk area. I think that's where he's from. And then there was another cat that was from Compton. His name was Destry, and he was incredible, man. His, Roy Capanella Park Pyru, man. He was one of the rowdiest dudes ever. And so the dude rolls up, hits us up. Destry pulls out a gun, which obviously we're not supposed to have at school. We're all on probation and stuff. The car takes off. And so I'm like, dog, you just killed us, dude. You just burned the spot. I mean, like, and it wasn't nothing we could do. Like, it wasn't like we could have copped to where we were from. And the dude's like, what are all you like rando gangsters doing in my hood, man? Like he would, it wasn't gonna stop there. And I know that. But like at that moment, he escalated it by pulling out the pistol. And it was like, all right, well, now they think we're here for trouble. Well, we're just trying to fucking go to school. And so like I said, with the timing with probation, I was like, I ain't gonna go there no more. So I stopped going there. And then obviously, man, while I wasn't when I wasn't spending 6 hours a day in school, and then hours to get home on the bus, during that time when I was in that school, I was working for the Press Telegram part time in my hometown, like the newspaper. I was doing that. And we were canvassing neighborhoods and selling shit and selling subscriptions and stuff like that, man. And so we did a lot of that. That put me in some weird like neighborhoods and spots that I shouldn't have been in. And the people that would drive the vans and stuff, they were cool. They were like, "No, I get it, David. That's cool, man." And like if I said like, "Yo, man, I'm gonna set this one out," he's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, no, So they were always cool. They were always younger and from the streets and shit themselves. They were cool. So I did that for a little while, and then I just got tired of doing that. And then I started kind of, I just had like little odd jobs in my neighborhood, collecting and shit like that, and kind of, and then unofficially kind of putting on these new guys and really kind of just leading the charge on showing new gangsters how to be good gangsters. So did that. Um, you know, the violence and all that stuff wasn't necessarily slow, but it was just I was so used to it at that point again because I was back in the set full time, all the time, like kind of just doing gangster stuff all the time. Getting in trouble and all that stuff, man, arrested a few different times here and there. So then my godmother, who was my guardian for a while when I was a kid, she still looked out for me after I aged out and stuff. And she had moved out here to Nebraska and was like, "You should check it out." And I think I told this on the last pod. I kind of kicked it around, ended up coming out here, and so that transition, you know, I didn't think about it at the time, but that was harder for me than I thought it would be because like I got there and it was automatically just like light and really chill and really just everybody was super friendly and supportive
The
and so I
Midwest smile and
yeah,
handshake.
man, yeah. So like, and so I had this problem where I was like, I don't know how to receive this stuff. I didn't know. And so I've been really institutionalized and kind of closed-minded for a lot of my life at this point, man. I was 18, 19 or whatever, and so then I start getting jobs and stuff like that, man. I start kind of getting into places where um it was a really kind of a temp check for me, with like so then I started fearing that I didn't belong, like so then the fearlessness that I experienced, things that put me in death's grip multiple times, shot at, stabbed, jumped, almost died for nothing, watched my friends die for nothing, all that stuff, man. All of a sudden, I kind of like I felt super limited, you know what I mean? Like and prior to this transition, I felt bulletproof for the majority of like my formidable years, man. I didn't take shit from nobody. clicked up. People treated me with respect. So much so, I remember that a friend of my dad that worked for my dad, he in the city of Long Beach. For all my Long Beach listeners, double down on this when you listen to it. Parking is ass. Like parking in Long Beach is terrible. And I remember this cat, Caral, he comes to me and he's like, "Hey, is there any way I could get you to just meet my neighbor? Because, we're having like this parking conflict." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "If he knows that I know you, I guarantee you I won't have no more parking beef." He goes, "I'm going to invite you over to my house for carne asada. And then I just want you to talk to him. Just introduce yourself to him." And I was like, "Okay." KB, he paid me $250 to spook his neighbor for a parking spot because the dude knew who I was, bro. He knew where I was from, So I was like, all right, yeah. And I didn't say anything like, mean to the dude. I
Right,
was just like,
right.
"What's up? What's up,
All
man?" Oh, damn, sorry. Oh, sorry. And anyway, so yeah, so I did that, and then yeah, man, that was right before. So then I move, and I'm trying to receive all this goodness that's happening around me, and it triggers some feelings in me that I hadn't felt. I felt some insecurity, and I felt some incompatibility, like I kind of said earlier. And so I spent a long time, longer than I not that I than I care to admit. I just don't know that I can pinpoint it to a year, but easily 10, 15 years I spent thinking that like I was in the wrong spot because I was trying to adjust to legitimate life and jobs and the kind of that energy, man. Which, in fairness to everybody there, they didn't need to be energetic like I was energetic before. Everything's kind of predetermined and predictable in this modern life that we have here now, man, for the
So
most
all the
part.
time you took in adapting to the gangbanger life, it took you exactly the same amount of time to adapt to we'll call it the
Long,
normal mainstream life.
longer, yeah, yeah, longer.
Mm.
So then, so I had some wins. I had talked to you before about like I got sent to Southern California for the UFCW strike, and I kind of just bodied that job because I was able to bring a bunch of gangsters into the job to do security and stuff. So I had a lot of wins. I had a lot of good jobs, a lot of good opportunities, saw a lot of places. I traveled a bunch of places for work because they were kind of leveraging and I didn't know this at the time, KB, but they were leveraging like my energy and what they saw as fearlessness, but it was a super like Timu version of fearless, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like I was just like being myself, but a little bit watered down for consumption. Like I'm just gonna like, hey, I'm gonna try to fit in. I'm gonna try to do more. I'm gonna write on people's stuff, and they're gonna know that I got a little something, but they're not gonna know that I was whole ass gangster and that I got a lot of dirt on me. They're not gonna know that. Well, so I dealt with that forever. And then I even went through kind of a small phase where I thought I felt a little tokenish. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, they're just being nice to me because I'm different or whatever. But what I really didn't ever consider, because I was so closed-minded and institutionalized in my own mind, that I still saw people as enemies and like kind of like this is you, this is me, we ain't the same. I went through like a really rough period where um I wasn't sure if what I was doing was right, but I kept winning. I kept getting raises, kept getting promotions, that. So I was like, well, maybe it's just something I'm missing. I'll just keep this going.
Mm.
Well, I had only run into a couple situations ever where I felt like what I did wasn't good enough. Like somebody treated it like it wasn't good enough. Because prior to that, man, I had been given this like carte blanche to just execute. You know what I'm saying? Just like, hey man, just do that David thing, and we trust you. We're good. And then I ran into a couple situations where like I probably should have turned it down a little bit, and adjusted how I approached certain jobs and certain projects and stuff. So um, and then I at one point I had been put in a situation where like there was this thing that wasn't moving along very well, and then I got involved, and then it was like, wow, that's that took no time. We got this guy involved. So then that kind of pumped me up a little bit. And then I would say, I kind of put a ton of emphasis, kind of speaking to fear, on not like, I didn't want to change very much about myself because I felt like I had such a good thing going that like I was fearing the change or the potential for success, like the potential for failure for sure. But I think I feared succeeding too in a weird way. So,
But that's
um,
you'd be surprised. Let's take a second just to kind of like
mhm,
walk
yeah,
through that a little bit because the
yeah,
people have a they call it if I can
mhm,
still talk today, a
yeah,
temperature,
yeah,
right? They go, this is my temperature, and if I raise too high or too below, um, I'm very uncomfortable, and I just want to
okay,
reset back to right whatever
yeah,
that number is, and that's true for everything from weight
yeah,
loss to how much money you make.
hmm, hmm,
Like it's all set by whatever your internal temperature
yep,
is for that thing. And it's actually a lot deeper. It rides into our identity. It's
oh, yeah,
woven into that particular piece of tapestry. And the problem, let's say problem, but the scary part, right,
hmm,
is once you start pulling on those threads, you're not just pulling on an idea. You're
hmm,
pulling on the piece of you, the
yep,
identity, the
yep,
part of you that makes up who you think you are. And you start unraveling that. And then you have to contend with, well, then if I'm not this, then who am I?
yep, right, right. Yeah, and that's what I mean is like I had, like, I told myself, I used to tell myself, which obviously how we talk to ourselves is really, really instrumental in any kind of success, or failure. And I remember telling myself, like, I've seen so much shit, like most of these people wouldn't believe me if I told them the thing that I've seen, man. And so then I started when I had like kind of a come to Jesus with myself, it was a few years after I got married, and I was like, I was trying to, because we live in this like really 3D dense materialistic world, man. And that's just society. I'm not, but a lot of my work historically has always been from the inside out. Some people will try to like achieve something cosmetically before they feel it or before they've earned it, inside. And so coming from a situation where like I had to prove myself all the time. It was like a huge part of my entire existence. Like, I'm going to show you that I'm the rowdiest, craziest, downest, like most fearless representative of this set than everybody that you've ever met, or any, or amongst my peers. That was the goal. And so I didn't want the same things as other people, KB, but then I was like, am I wrong though? Am I wrong because I don't want those things? How do I know I don't want to? So I had all this internal, like, and we all do. I had this internal conflict for fucking years, man. Where I was just like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to do. And then I had some changes. Like I had some things happen professionally that had kind of pushed me into like a sit or get off the pot type of mentality. So I was like, I started seeking my own enlightenment. I started reading more books. I started kind of getting in touch with myself in the terms of like, what's the best time of day for you to do things? I started kind of going like that cellular, that granular with it. Like, yo, I'm going to find out what I do best, when I do what I do best, and how I can do more of it. And then I needed like, and that's when I kind of got back into graph the last like 5 or 6 years, because I was like, I need some type of outlet to offset trying to be a good dad. I got an autistic son, and like I was trying to like achieve things simultaneously while I wasn't even close to what I felt like was ready to be even in as blessed and as fortunate of a situation as in. I thought I failed forward. I really just thought, my wife's the one that's got her shit together. It's not me. And so like feel like I failed forward. Then, I kind of had this, and it's crazy, man, because most of the best things that you do or I do or whoever does, it's a result of maybe suffering through it originally, in some fashion or another. Like, I suffered through years of self-hate and self-doubt, self-limiting beliefs. That's why today, like, I'm so confident and I'm so energetic because, like, I've been there, man. I ain't going there no more. And so I went through these, and then I was because and so then the where the fear factors into this stuff could be, and then I was thinking to myself, I'm like, what if everybody hates this, like, this cutover to, like, going back to your roots and representing yourself in the way that you've always done really well. Because the truth is, man, I'm an active agent, KB. I was one of the most active, illest, downest, craziest writers. Same thing when I got clicked up and started gangbanging, man. Put my life on the line for nothing, bro. To me,
Mm.
it was something, but it was nothing. And so I'm like, I'm an active agent. So that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, you are pretty active, dude. Like, why don't you try to figure out a way to, like, channel that, harness that, package it, And I was like, well, I could probably get back into graph, and I could start painting and shit again. I really always loved that. And I always doodled and stuff for people for years, 20, 30 years. I've always done that. And so I was like, well, what if I took it more serious? Then I started painting, and then I was like, and then people, it was super well received, people buying stuff, making extra money, and I could use the bread. I was making extra money, and I was like, man, this is kind of dope. And then I started getting overwhelmed because I was like, this stuff takes forever. In some cases, every day you don't feel creative, so it's like commissions and all the stuff that I was doing. It was like, this is getting kind of intense and making me feel less than happy about doing something that makes me so happy. So
Yeah,
that's when
that's that that is all the time,
yeah,
right?
right.
That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
everybody's creative journey. Like, I want to make money through my creativity, but then I
Yeah.
make too much money or just too much business
Mhm.
now and not enough
Yep.
creativity time. And I don't want to do the business piece so
Yep.
much because I just wanted, I started to be creative. Man,
Yep.
that is the story of stories.
It
Story of
is. And it is, and that's why sometimes now, like, even now, I still struggle with, like, feeling assembly line-ish, but I'm also like, everybody that buys something from me or orders it or, like, says, like, hey, man, just put your spin on it. They give me the artistic freedom to create for them, and then they pay me in exchange for that, dog. Like, that those people are a part of me for life, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, in physical, in the figurative and literal sense, you're part of me for life, man. I made this for you. You're gonna display it, and you're gonna and everybody's gonna be like, yo, who made that? That's my homeboy, man. David made that. He's the man, or whatever. I've seen people that don't know me that are like, yeah, I mean, lots of people that don't know me, man, that are like, hey, can you do this? Yeah, I got you. So anyways, like, that fear, was like, I had kind of achieved some enlightenment, and I was starting to feel pretty good. And I kind of worked myself through all of this, like, rehabilitated gangster thing. Cause that's always how I've treated myself, is like, you're a rehab case, man. You're just a dude you're just a walked up gangster. And, like, I was like, there's no way that I'll be able to, like, achieve beyond that, like, identity of myself I did that to myself. Nobody was telling me that. And so then I started teaching myself design, and then I started getting into these design circles where, like, KB, you want something, and an actual, like, person that has, like, a design, credential they went to school for it or whatever, they're like a legit designer. They'll put all these boundaries on your request, and it'll take them 2 weeks to do it. I'm like, shit, I could probably do that in a day. And just as, like, a street artist who then kind of moved into more contemporary commercial stuff, so, like, I had a ton of fear of myself, man, where I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do these things. There's no way I'm going to be able to be on the Leaders and Legends podcast. There's no fucking way I'm going to be able to work with these brands and these rappers. And there's no way I'm going to make enough money doing this to make a huge significant impact on my family and my life. And there's just, nah, right. And then you you know all these things, like you know how to do all these things, and you know how to write, you know how to draw, you're a great artist or whatever. And I'm not saying that about me, but just in general. But there's people out there that are fucking better than me that aren't achieving anything because they scared. Knowledge is power, but what is action coupled with knowledge, man? You know what I mean? Like it's unreal when you take action. And I just said this today in a workplace meeting. I said, everything that I've given energy to, that active agency I talked about, KB, those are the best parts of my life, dog. Those are the best parts of my life, man. Everything that I've given, everything I had to, are the best pieces of me, like my kids, my wife, my grandkids, like my business, my job, everything, dog. Everything that I gave all this energy to because I overcame the fear of rejection, the fear of like being made fun of. The biggest thing about I like putting my work out there on social media and that kind of stuff, man. That's all promotional stuff, but I also like to try and share a message with most of my work if it's out there in the public, like take care of yourself, kind of. That's my lane, man. I'm trying to make everybody dangerous. And so with when I think of like that stuff, and I've had some critique and, people say things, but KB, I ain't never heard from nobody that's doing more than me, dog. I ain't never heard from one person that's doing better or more than I am. Because every time somebody like talks shit on the internet, I look them up and I can't find your work, man. I can't, I'd love to, admire the person that's better than me, but I can't find your work, dog.
Yeah, and
And
that's
I mean, that's
standard.
every case.
Only
That's
only the
every
people
case.
only the people only the people who are not doing are the ones that are criticizing because
Yep.
you're creating the dissidents in their own mind and
Yep.
they are being seen that
Yep.
I could be doing that, but I'm not because I'm afraid. And
Right.
that hurts people. That hurts. It's painful,
Yep. Yep.
but I like what you said about like having to do to get through,
Yeah.
because if you're not doing the things, then you're not able to work that fear. You're not able to
Yep.
get better. You're not able to do like it's in the action where
Hmm.
all things happen.
All things, all things.
All things
And
happen.
that's what I mean. It's back to that math thing. This execution plus this like outcome equals this win or whatever. It's just what it is. And so, I we've been on here a while and I want to kind of call action to the listeners, man. I know a lot of people that do a lot of great shit. I know some people that I know could do more, that are capable of more. Ask yourself if it's fear that is stopping you. And here's a best way to approach fear, in my opinion. You're not scared of one big thing. You're scared of a lot of little things that sum up to one giant fear. So you're afraid of singing karaoke. I don't, I don't, I love singing, but I don't want to sing in front of people. Go to a bar where nobody knows you. Who gives a fuck? Go sing the fucking song, right? I'm afraid to go and get my motorcycle license. I don't. I love motorcycles. I want to ride one day, but I don't. I don't want to. I'm not. You're just not serious about it. Then you're not afraid. You're just not serious, right? Like you're not because there's no critique. There's no people watching you. Nobody knows if you failed your motorcycle driver's, your license exam. Nobody knows. Karaoke, you fucking your voice squeaks or something. They'll know. They'll call you on it. You're afraid in your 9 to 5 job to step up and speak out. You guarantee you, as a leader myself, your boss isn't going to be mad at you for speaking up or speaking out. Or you know what? Don't wait for the job title to lead. If you want to, like say you have aspirations to be a leader, you don't have to have the job title to take leadership, to take ownership of things and lead them. You don't have anything, nothing like that. Do you think? I think also that with fear, how much of it is real, right? So you tell yourself, well, I know that if I do this, this is the outcome. And you don't know that, right? You don't know that. So I would say to everybody that wants to do something that may feel like fear is holding them back, attack your fear incrementally. And then, KB said something earlier, micro versus macro. And I think that's something we'll talk about at some point with the kind of the macro understanding of yourself. You know, look at yourself and the overarching characteristics. If you, let's just say that you're really good with people, you're very extroverted, you're very empathetic, and you love talking to people, you get your energy from people. Let's just say that. And you love to talk and you're an expert in maybe some things, you know, that's a transferable skill. Somebody that can present and speak, that's a transferable skill. You might not know the organization that's hiring for somebody that needs to be like a product owner or a product manager or a scrum master, those roles, man. You don't you don't have to know that to organize a calendar and facilitate meetings. If you get energy from talking to people and you are fine with somewhat of like passive on the job kind of conflict and confrontation, go do something that you can leverage your strengths in. Maybe you're really analytical but you don't know a lot about some of these tools. There's Your job probably offers free courses or courses they pay for you to learn coding and other tools, microcerts and database building and stuff like
Repeat
that.
is free.
Free
Most
in some cases,
most
yeah.
AI is
Udemy,
free.
yep, yep. And like,
And for just $20,
yep.
you can know everything and anything tailored
And
to your understanding.
KB, that's a great point. Right now, I'm gonna look straight at the camera. I'm gonna look straight at you. Right now, we live in the most abundant time ever for knowledge, for access, and for ability to make money. People work remotely. There's a bunch of these. There's people that pay people to write letters. There's people that pay people to do dumb, 10 key data entry stuff. There's so many opportunities out there right now. If you don't have it, because you ain't going for it. That's the truth, man. That's the truth. And so, with that, Jesus, with that, I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna go with this real quick. With that, test yourself out. Something that I do all the time, and I do this thing because I want to test. Am I fearless or am I full of shit? I test my systems. I set things up for myself, and then I kind of wait for catastrophe. I just told KB about a $2,000 day I had the other day. Just everything that could go wrong with some car trouble. The dog had to go to the vet. So $2,000. It cost me $2,000 that day. With everything that I have going, I'm not implying that I'm super wealthy or anything like that. I'm savvy. I'm I'm I'm
And you
I'm
got
I'm, I'm
systems in
I have
place.
systems. And
It's all
KB
about
said
the
it in our first.
systems. It's
Yeah,
never about how much
100%.
money you make. It's how you spend your money.
Systems,
It's about the
systems.
systemization of your
Yeah,
wealth,
yeah,
whatever that is, whether it's
yeah.
$10 or 1,000 or a million. If you don't have
100%.
systems, it's trash.
KB said it in our last pod at the top. Economic web of activity. So something, I've made a goal for myself with sales and all that stuff. And I put myself out there with my wife and everybody says, I'm shooting for daily transactions. I want to sell something every single day, daily transactions. And so I'm not every day, but I can tell you that I'm shipping something somewhere 3 times a week. Like I'm always selling something, man. You make and so I and so what I say to test my level of fearlessness and whether or not to find out, like I said, if I am fearless or full of shit, when things happen, I'm happy about them because I get to test my system. Like,
Mm.
hell yeah, hell yeah,
And
hell
and
yeah.
we're not going to address the fact that you might be primed to action under duress and crisis.
Oh, bro. Like I'm so bad. Like my wife has to tell me weeks out, you are off this day. this is the day you take off. And now that our kids are older and like they can stay home more by themselves, because it's like now her and I are on this like second chapter of our life where like we can go on like dates, and it's not just a trip to the grocery store now, like, yo, we should go get dinner and blah blah blah, and I value that so much, but I need pulled out of the village, man. I'm like, I'm on the grind all the time, you know what I mean? And so like and like KB said, I love desmadre. That's chaos and shit in Spanish. I love desmadre, chaos. I love to be involved. Your problem is my problem. Like I love that. I love that. And I get a ton of energy from being relied upon, man. I do. I really do. It pays so many dividends, especially when somebody's like, hey man, like I'm not really creative. Will you make this for my kid for their birthday? I'm like, hell yeah. Hell yeah, and so, or somebody wants something promotional. That's kind of my space. And then I figured out with KB. I talked to him the other day is about agility, and I've talked to people that will listen and that work with me and stuff too. Is that agility is so underrated. So something that I did is I taught myself when I was teaching myself design. I taught myself how to make like vinyl stickers and sublimation and stuff like that. And most situations, let's just say, people are using predetermined fonts and having to download programs to pull. I'll just draw it. I'll just draw it. I'm gonna dip back into my bag as a graph writer. And I'm gonna just draw it. I'll just freehand it. Don't worry about it. But we need to make an effect, something that looks like a paintbrush. I do that too. I do that too. So like I'm so stoked on agility and testing my systems and having a system to test that like all of this vibration, all of this stuff, it's all feels kind of the same to me. It's all rewarding in its own way, man. And I'm not afraid of shit. I don't care. Like people, your work is whack, or people are gonna listen to this and say, this dude's full of shit. He ain't doing all the things he says he does. Huh? There's plenty of people on here that'll listen that can confirm it, and so, and I don't care about that anyways, but just more so like saying,
Well,
if
this is the thing, right? Like
yeah,
when people are afraid of like basically two different spaces, right? They're
yeah,
afraid of the space of what other people will say. Like,
yeah,
what does that rep look like? And when people go, well, you don't know what you're doing, or you do know what you're doing, but I don't like you anyway. Like
mhm,
that
yeah,
that conversation, because that's a
yeah,
type of conversation. There are a lot
yeah,
of people who are primed
yep,
to be highly sensitive to any of those type of criticisms, right?
right, right,
There's a different
right,
type of population who is absolutely right, could care less if the world was burning around them. Like they just like,
yep,
oh, that's nice,
mhm,
right? They just
right,
won't
right,
care.
right.
And then there's trained, what I call trained
Yeah, man. No,
responses
for sure.
to
Yep.
those external. But
Yep.
the other piece of that though is this internal fear.
Yep.
Because I will tell you and I don't know how this manifested later, right? But when I was in my 90s, in the 90s, back in the day, right? I had a lot of fear of myself, of the danger that I could bring out, the darkness is what I call it, right?
Yeah, man.
I
100%.
really, I don't tell this to a lot of people, and I'm telling it to everybody, but like I know I had kind of like this darkness, and I was always super sensitive to it coming out. That's why I didn't do any drugs. I didn't do any alcohol. I didn't do any of that because I feared that I would lose control
Sure, sure,
of
sure,
that
sure, sure.
darkness, and it would affect everything around me. And then it's funny you talk about the gang banging. It's my first apartment was run by I think it was the Crips or the Bloods. I'm not sure which. It was at the back of a travel lodge. Not it was definitely one
Yeah,
of those highly violent spaces. They left me
yeah.
alone. Right? I don't know. Like at the time, I don't know anything.
Right, 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 right.
Because I'm not a part of that. I have my own problems, right, per se, that I was working through. But I'll tell you, after the military and all the things I've done in the military, which like you, like if I start telling stories,
Yeah.
people are like, no, you didn't. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it was on record, luckily,
Yeah.
or
Mm,
bad, depending on your perspective.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, I still had a lot of fear leaving the military. That now that darkness that I had to use was stronger.
Yeah. No,
It
it's a good
wasn't
point, man.
weaker coming out of the military. It's stronger, way stronger
Yeah.
coming out of the
That's
military.
interesting. That's interesting. And see, like when you think about it too, man, and like I want to tie fear to like
And that's what I'm afraid of every
um
day. So we talk
no
about like fear of like taking action, right?
yeah
Sometimes I fear taking the type of action that's a war crime
sure.
level,
Yeah, no, for sure. And I
right?
worked through some of that too. So like I I remember having a feeling um when we found out my son was autistic, and um the bullying and stuff that goes on in school. Right now we're not dealing with that yet, but like I always remember telling myself, and a less enlightened version of myself is like, you bullied my son, I'm gonna bully your dad. You know what I mean? Like I can guarantee you he don't have my background. You know what I'm saying? Like he ain't me. And I remember kind of thinking like, what a stupid thing to say, dude. You're so past that, type of thing. But like I when I look at it all, KB, like, I from graph to gangbanging, finding kind of my footing professionally and civilly as like a dad and a husband and all that stuff, man. You know, the I would say that everything I did was a risk of some kind, where I kind of put myself outside of an element that, was probably a little bit more healthy and stuff, man. But I wanted to take chances. I wanted to take risks. I wanted to do like I'm not happy just like I love all this square dad shit. I love it. I love I love my watching my kids grow up. I love that, like I get to do the things for my kids that my parents didn't do for me. I love that. And that keeps me really motivated, but compartmentalized speaking. You know what I mean? Like I'm motivated as a dad, as a husband, as a provider. I'm motivated, but I'm alive when I'm creating, putting myself out there,
Mhm.
achieving. Bro, achievement is a huge fuel to keep going, And so, like, I've had so many situations that were uncomfortable and I didn't feel like I was worthy of. Once I got away from, Long Beach and moved into like a more civilized kind of environment, I had a lot of situations. Like I said, I spent more time closed-minded and institutionalized in my head than I should have probably, but now like I'm so fucking alive, you can't deny me, bro. Like and I achieved that by like getting past fear, man. And I use that system that I encourage everybody to try. And I just use an incremental system of like overcoming like self-limiting beliefs, man. Like, you wrote graffiti in the 90s, bro. Like nobody cares about that. Who are you? And it's funny because now like I like to make sure that I differentiate myself in that way. Like when people hire me and stuff, man, it's like 90s graffiti writer, 90s, like when it mattered, when it was at its peak and when it was, and then, I came up in an era where like right now I see like gangster kids throwing up gang signs and self-snitching on the internet. You get smacked in the mouth for that. With my time, like there's no way, and so yesterday's real life is today's costume, is really what I kind of feel, man. I went, real quick story. I went to take my kids to the mall to go spend their gift cards right after Christmas, a couple of days after Christmas. And I went to the Zoomy store, and I don't go there much. And I looked, and I was looking at, and they had all this attire that I wore 30 years ago, man. Frisco band pants, Cascade, like Charlie Brown, like striped shirts, all these Shaka Pro Club, all these brands that I used to buy at the swap meet in the 90s. And I was like, what is this? Like you're dressing like gangsters and cholos and shit like now. And fun fact, man, I saw some people walk in and they were shopping for these clothes. And I was like, yo, that's wild.
It's been
And this isn't that,
commercialized.
yeah, this isn't shitting on kids or anybody today. This was just more so how out of touch and out of it I felt like I was in that moment. So like I'm looking at these people. It was two girls, one guy. And they're all looking at these gangster like clothes. These are straight up, man. Like I said, straight up how cholos dressed and stuff in the 90s. White t-shirts, Shaka wear, Pro Club. And not to mention this stuff's like 5 times more expensive than it ever was in the swap meet. And they're all like shopping for these clothes. And I'm like, do these kids gangbang? Like, nah, there's no way, right? And so I always have I call this like my EDC. I always carry business cards and then just like some of my stickers and stuff in this heavy duty zip. And I give them out to people. Like, hey, I'm a graffiti writer designer. If you're looking for some work, man, like yeah, I got you. And a lot of times that's how I make connections and get followers and stuff on social media. And I gave them those slaps, and I was like, you guys are, you know this stuff, man. You guys into graffiti and all that stuff. You guys know graffiti and street art, and they're like, no, not really. But I was like more so fascinated by like the gravitation towards these clothes, and I was like, man, where are we now, dog? Like everything. So that's why when I say about abundance, KB, you can be whatever you want. You can be a cholo from 30 years ago right now, dog, if you want to be. You can go be a gangster and nobody here is going to say, where are you from? Nobody. So, man, I want to leave you guys with that, man. Life is full. If you're struggling, that's when you're learning. That's when they always say the darkest before the dawn or whatever they say with that. That's a fact. That's 100% fact. Don't be afraid because you're really afraid of yourself. You're not really afraid of the outside world. You're afraid of yourself. And get your internal dialogue up where like when you hear me talk here, you're like, man, this guy thinks he's a shit. You right. I do. I do. I fucking do. So I think that everybody's got that in them. Everybody can make the difference. Everybody can make a difference for others, man. If you got family, you got little kids, they watching you. You want them to be. If my daughter said today, my youngest 9, my 30-year-old, it's too late. She already liked me. But if they say they want to be, I'm like, good. Oh yeah, good. My daughter, my 9-year-old right now, man, she writes graph, and I'm teaching her design, and we're designing her business cards and stuff. She wants to sell bracelets and hustle on, homegirl, for real. So I really, really, really think that it's in you. You got the tools, just get them out of the shed, man. You know what I mean? Like you're good. You're so ready to make a change, especially if you're conflicted right now, man. There's an economy in your suffering. Somebody makes money off your suffering. Somebody makes money off your engagement. Somebody makes money off your off decisions you make because you're afraid, man. Take that. Invest it in yourself, man. Don't give it up to nobody else, man. You start talking to yourself really good. That's the shit right there. That's where it starts. It starts here and it works its way outward, and then your life will just change. It might take 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, but then it's all worth it, man. Nobody looks back and says I wouldn't have started. I would have. I'm so pissed at all this progress. Said nobody ever. So, man, but I
Man,
think that
that's
yeah,
amazing, man.
yeah.
That is
Thank you,
that is it right there.
thank you, thank
If
you, thank
they
you.
people just need to listen to David here and take to heart
Yeah,
what he's saying about all the things
oh,
that we can go through and the changes and all and how we can overcome what we think is fear when we
yeah,
realize it's just the illusion of our own mind,
100%.
and then it just unlocks, right? It's an unlock. It's an unleashing of our
Yep,
potential, right,
yep.
in being fulfilled. And so, man, thank you so much for
Thank you.
these amazing stories
Thank you.
and inspiring the next generation here, because some of the facts are is that, look, people, I love what you said there about struggling is learning, because there's a lot
Oh
of
man.
struggle happening right now, and some of it is your fault.
Yep.
Listener, if you listen, some of it's your fault. But I want to tell you, some of it's not your fault. There are environmental forces, best way to put that, that are making life a little harder, and have for quite some time. And if you can take your creativity and create your economic security from it, and just get over that fear of like, oh, they won't like it. Somebody will like it, I
I
promise.
like it.
Right?
And if you like it,
somebody,
that's enough. You
and
like
that's
it.
enough. Absolutely.
That's it. That's
Absolutely.
it.
Man, thank you so much for this. This is super inspiring. Very excited.
Thank you, bro.
I can't wait to our next one, because there's this is now going to become a thing. So
we're here to break the internet, man. We're gonna break the internet with all this positivity shit. We're gonna make people so dangerous. It's like that we're creating a religion. A religion. This is a fucking religion. We're gonna make everybody so dangerous, so prosperous, so financially stable. This is your new religion.
I love it. Love it. I'm down.
All right, man. Yeah.
All right, man.
Hey,
thank you so much.
Bro. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.